Hello, today I'm going to talk about a Sonic game made on an obscure system by a developer who would later be known for making some meh games. Sonic Pocket Adventure, made by none other than Dimps for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. But first, since nobody has any idea of what the Neo Geo Pocket Color is, let me just give you a quick recap. The Neo Geo Pocket Color was a handheld system made by SNK. Yes, the same people who made arcade games and were cool for a while in the arcade before falling out of relevance. But anyways, the Neo Geo Pocket and then the Pocket Color were basically handhelds trying to basically be Game Boy ripoffs. I'm calling them that because instead of trying to improve on the Game Boy design with stuff people want, such as backlighting or rechargeables, they decided to do a smart idea and use the same shitty Game Boy Color and Game Boy type screen. You know those crappy LCDs which you can't see in the dark, and then you can't even see with light because you have to hold the screen at an angle to view? Yes, it's got one of those screens. The graphics weren't too impressive either, maybe about the top power of a Game Boy Color, despite the system coming out like after the Game Boy Color did. And despite being 16-bit, this system proves bits are a joke by looking more like a Sega Game Gear. Maybe even worse than a Sega Game Gear, despite the Game Gear coming out years later. And likewise, it flopped. Mainly because nobody knew what the fuck it was, but SNK ran out of money. When SNK got bought out, they dumped the system. Did I mention that this system had barely any third-party support, and Sonic Pocket Adventure was one of the few third-party games made for it? But anyways, let's stop talking about this system because there's 4 million other videos on it, and let's talk about the game itself, shall we? So, if there's a Sonic game that screamed cash in, it couldn't be any bigger than this. Because the overused Seaside Hill theme wasn't out yet, Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, well, there's a reason it says 1992 in the copyright date, because this is basically Sonic 2 without the speed and graphics. The graphics look dull and bland. I mean, I've seen better looking Game Gear games than this crap. I mean, and did I mention the Game Gear had a backlight unlike the Neo Geo Pocket Color? But let's face it, the graphics look like crap. Like if they made a Game Boy Color version of Sonic 2. That's what these graphics look like. The game lacks speed. The game feels slow compared to the actual Sonic 2 for some reason. And did I mention Dimps even used modern Sonic? But of course, then again, honestly, if you're arguing over Sonic eye colors, it's pretty irrelevant. Doesn't change the fact that the game's crap, though. The music is terrible. Basically, it's like they try to dumb down music from Sonic 3 and Sonic Jam to fit on the Neo Geo Pocket Color's horrible sound system, which sounds like a Game Gear despite coming out years after it. I mean, you would have think technology would have advanced, but no. Apparently in this world, technology didn't advance far enough for SNK to use a better sound chip. Or it's probably just laziness because the Game Boy Advance, which came out like a year or two later, completely destroyed this. Yeah, this was actually the first time a Nintendo Portable had better graphics because when the competitors don't even try, they made it easy. But let's go back to the game. There's also special stages which have the worst draw distance ever, making it kind of annoying. And yeah, they're exact copy-paste of Sonic 2 special stages. In fact, that's what this game could be summed up as. That crappy mobile spin-off nobody cares about or knows about, because that's pretty much what this game could be considered. And the game feels like a watered-down version of Sonic 2 made by Dimps. And did I mention the controls feel sloppy in parts? There are some times when the controls feel like they overcompensate, so this makes it even more annoying to play. In the end, this game is not only boring, it's kind of painful to play. I mean, if you want a better 8-bit Sonic game, go play the Game Gear Sonic, such as Sonic Triple Trouble. That's so much better than this, but then again, people are more focused on the Game Gear's battery life despite not owning one. But anyways, that's what this is. The graphics are bland. Not only are they terrible, but they're bland too. They're just horrendously bland, especially in Chemical Plant Zone. And by the way, you have to love the incredibly unfitting music. I mean, you would think they could at least 8-bit Sonic 2's music, but no. They gotta just pick random tunes from Sonic 3. Now listen to this. This game looks like shit. The music is shit. It's basically a shitty Sonic spin-off. I mean, seriously. Don't buy this game unless you're one of those true fans who must own absolutely every Sonic game for the sake of owning every Sonic game. Because this game isn't worth it, not even at $5, and neither is the system. The system's just meh. You could get a Game Gear or Lynx and have more fun with it than this. This was never ahead of its time. This was behind its time. I mean, I've seen similar graphics on a Game Boy Color. And did I mention this game was also the start of some Dimps, quote, innovations such as death pits? Yeah, this game's got a bunch of them, probably due to Dimps' amazing level design when they weren't copying and pasting it. All in all, don't buy this game. Save your money. At best of all, if you want a good game system, go get like a Vita. That thing is the shit. It's got a ton of games on it. It can play your PS1 and PSP games. And you'll have a lot more fun than playing this game. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more.